Boom, we're live. Happy Halloween. I hope you all are having a fantastic evening. My name is Chris Igoe. Welcome to the big show. It is your Florida housing market real-time update for October 2023. And I got so fired up this afternoon when I created a video intending to talk about real-time housing market data, but I got so sidetracked talking to my friend Kevin that I realized I really didn't do any of the deep dive that I had intended to do. So I'm going to do it now. I'm going to make up for it. I remain committed to telling you the truth, sharing the truth about what's happening in real time in order for you to be able to make the best empowered decisions for yourself, for your family, and for your financial bottom line. And there is a lot of volatility out there in the market. There is a lot of uncertainty that is out there in the market. There is a tremendous uptick in terms of fear that the consumer is feeling. People just like you and me, they are experiencing inflation, they are experiencing the markets, and they don't like what they see. And we're going into an election season. So things are going to get jittery for a lot of folks. Now, before I get into the data that exists in my market, and I'm committed to doing that. I will not get too sidetracked. There are a lot of things that are happening right now, right? So the S&P 500 staged its third straight monthly decline. That is notable. That is a trend. And if you're new to the channel, then welcome aboard. If you're a returning viewer, then you likely already know that prior to being a boots on the ground real estate professional, I was a stockbroker for damn near 20 years, and I traded through every economic condition globally, every market condition that happened in that 20-year run. I traded through it and experienced everything there is to see. So during the great financial crisis, I was there pounding the phones, talking to people that were losing their ass, and they were terrified. I had to wear lots of hats. I had to be a crisis counselor. I had to talk them out of, in many instances, hurting themselves and out of fear, out of panic, jumping from their disciplined plan into some crazy other plan. And it was extremely taxing. It was a 24/7 news cycle, and I was constantly manning the phones and doing what needed to be done. But I always told the truth, and I never told people what they wanted to hear. I think nowadays most people are used to having people tell them what they want to hear, not what they need to know, not what they must know, not the truth. They want a sugar-coated version of whatever it is that's happening. And I got news for you. The sugar-coated version of what's happening, we just went through a damn near 16-year run of that bullshit. That is over. It is over. Game is over. And it's time to adjust and prepare for the new normal, because we are in a very new cycle. And I like to call it volatility season. So anyway, Silvio, what's up, my man? Let's see here. We got some more. 1.8 billion in damages to victims from National Association of Realtors. Tattoo destroyer. Yeah, you're right. And you know what that is, my friend? That is a nothing burger. No one cares. Not one real estate professional who is a real professional could give two flying shits about that lawsuit, because the reality of it is realtors who provide maximum service and value to their clients will always be paid. There will always be a market from buyers and sellers who are willing to pay a premium to ensure that they're working with someone who can get the job done the right way and advocate and negotiate for them the right way and ensure they get the most money possible or the biggest discount possible, given whatever the market conditions are. So, tattoo destroyer, you can talk about the damages to victims, and I would tell you, you are a victim. Get out of that victim mentality. Grow up, my friend. Put your boots on and get ready for this next season. Go get a new tattoo that says train hard, because it's about to be on, my friend. So level up, get ready, and let's talk about what's happening right now. But that particular lawsuit, which everybody's so scared about, does not mean jack shit to an actual real estate professional. Now, that being said, I can assure you there are going to be lots of non-professionals in the market that see that headline and they're going to be terrified. They're going to run to the exit doors. They're going to leave the industry. I cannot wait for them to leave because they never should have been in the industry to begin with. But the days of easy money are over. The days of easy transactions are over. The days of not being of maximum value and service to your clients are over. So none of that applies to me. So I'm going to continue to do what I do and empower you with the truth. All right, Tattoo Destroyer. I apologize for my tone. I obviously took it the wrong way. And that's why communicating via text and or comments is never the best method of communicating. Always talk in person and or over the phone and or in some other method, Zoom, whatever it is. But it's real easy to misread letters on a screen or whatever, an email. Tone can be misinterpreted, and I obviously did that there. So here's where we're at. We've got right now S&P 500, its third straight monthly decline. No bueno for anybody paying attention. But how does that impact the housing market? Has it impacted the housing market? Is the fact that mortgage interest rates are at 8% and climbing, is that impacting the housing market? Well, you can take my word for it, or we can see what the data reveals, because the data does not lie. And anybody can sell you whatever they want to. People can lie about whatever they want to. They can push their own narrative. They can give you a steaming pile of bullshit information and make you believe what they want to, what's in their best interest. I have zero interest in doing that. I'm here to tell you the truth so that you are empowered to make the best decisions for yourself, for your family, and for your financial bottom line. And to be clear, buying a home right now is not the right decision for many people today. Selling a home right now is not the best decision for some people today. There are lots of sellers that are trapped, for lack of a better term. They're trapped. They've got the golden handcuffs on in their 2%, 3%, 4% mortgage, and they cannot escape. They can't move. They're stuck in that home. And many of them are thrilled about that. Many of them are not. There may be other opportunities that exist for them, other jobs that exist for them, higher paying jobs that exist for them in other locations, but they can't move because they can't afford it. And so a lot is going to be revealed as we progress through volatility season, but volatility season is here. So the moratorium on student debt payments, that is expired. It's back in play as of October, and we're at the end of October. And to be clear, happy Halloween, everyone. I think I said that already. Quick story about Halloween. So I took my kids out trick-or-treating. We did the whole shebang. Excuse me. I have a cough. I have a cold. I have a cold vid. I don't have COVID, but I'm definitely recovering from something. And let's see here. Ticker symbol VNQ shows a decent chart of the housing market demand and health. Perhaps it's possible. I don't know. I have not studied the VNQ. I can tell you that the VIX tracks volatility in the markets, but even that is not a well. All of those are leading indicators, right? Let's see here. Hello. Hello. Hi. So the GPS is taking you to the resident entrance. You're not going to be able to get in that way. You need to get on Lyons Road, and the main entrance is there. It's a manned gate. They'll call me and I'll let you in. Take 441 to Hyperluxo, Hyperluxo to Lyons, and you'll be here. All right? All right, bye. And that, my friends, is how you get to where I'm at right now. Now, that being said, I just ordered DoorDash. I just ordered 2 home wrecker burritos with double steak. And so, how do I get this off? And so anyway, the DoorDash is relying on technology. They're relying on GPS. They got taken to the wrong entrance. And this is the second time she's called. She can't figure out how to get into the community. And the last thing that you want, now this is a steak burrito, so I don't really give a shit whether it comes here quickly or not. And frankly, I apologize about being interrupting our live stream, but I will be hungry when I'm done. But if this is, I'll use this as a real estate example. If you have been relying on technology and your skill set is lacking and you haven't leveled up in all the other skill sets that you require, but you're really good simply with technology, well, I got news for you. You're going to be out of the business quickly. And this door dasher, I hope she keeps her job and I hope she figures it out. But even after talking to me and me telling her exactly where to go, she still came back to the same place that she was at already. How dumb can you be? Well, there's no, there's no pricing in for stupid, but I hope I get my food at some point. And thank you, Tattoo Destroyer. I will enjoy my dinner. Where was I at with this? Yeah, we've got volatility upticking, right? And we've got people trapped in their homes that can't move. And if the Fed, which meets on Wednesday, does anything that resembles, to be clear, I've been predicting these things for a long time. So if you've watched for a while, you're going to hear me say things that are redundant. I've said them plenty of times in the past, but as we get closer to the election, as we're in the election season, it certainly would not surprise me if the Fed or Jay Powell or some government institution, or God knows what happens in the background or in the back rooms or what the private conversations are. I am certainly not an insider. I'm also not an analyst or a financial advisor anymore. So don't take any of this as financial advice. It's not. It's my opinion. But it certainly would not surprise me if they pull some type of financial rabbit trick, if you will, economic trick, if you will, some type of kicking the can down the road, if you will, like they've been doing since they bailed out the system the last time it almost broke. And I'll share now what I shared then. The system should be allowed to fail. The zombie corporations that never should have been bailed out should have been allowed to fail. Failure is a necessary component of a free market capitalist system. And that didn't happen, period. There were bailouts galore, and we've seen every freaking crazy thing you could possibly see over the last few years. But the stimulus, the deficits, the printing of money, all of those, the easy money, buying treasuries, all the crap that they did is terrible for the country. And we are going to have to pay at some point. But we've got the student loan payments that are now back into they're back into existence. So if you have one, and many people do, it's the only debt you can't discharge through bankruptcy. There are lots of folks out there that are getting squeezed by inflation, and this next payment could be the thing that crushes them. And people bury their heads in the sand. They don't want to pay attention. They don't want to admit to themselves that they're in the predicament that they're in, because the reality of that is so terrifying. But what inevitably happens is that the debt that they're carrying eats their equity, and they're forced to sell things that they didn't want to. That's the way it goes, period. End of story. It's not open for debate. It's just simply what happens. Now, that being said, I expect that they're going to do something extraordinarily stupid. I expect they're going to manipulate the system. I expect they are going to bring down interest rates or Fed funds rates. I pray to God they don't. I hope they keep them high for longer. And the reason for that is, well, as a real estate professional, that's against my best self interest. As an American citizen and with kids that I hope will have the opportunity to buy a home and thrive in this country, I don't want to pass the buck to the next generation. So what does that mean? That's a lot of words, right? If they incentivize the market by bringing down mortgage interest rates, I believe the number is for each percentage point that they drop mortgage interest rates, or that mortgage interest rates drop, because the Fed doesn't control that directly. But for each point that mortgage interest rates drop, it unlocks something close to 5 million buyers. Well, what does that mean? That means that when the interest rates come down, the people who are locked into their home are going to get unlocked from their home. They're going to be willing to trade out of whatever they're in and into whatever they want to be in. And again, at least in my market, there's scarcity of resource. So what will very likely happen is a massive huge exponential jump in home values. And that will be a reverse market crash. If you look at Argentina and what they did economically with the political changes that happened, their stock market basically doubled in 4 months or something close to that. That was a reverse crash. The rich got richer and the poor did not participate. That's exactly what will happen here, except the people who are buying the homes in if this happens, well, what will that mean? It means that they're going to do whatever they must. And the lending standards, which have been so strong um, and regulated, and everybody points to that as being the reason why there won't be a foreclosure crisis, which is horseshit, by the way. But nonetheless, there we go again. Hi, you can let him in. All right, thank you. I don't know what the point of technology is if nobody uses it. So I've got literally every single delivery service on my gate access list. They don't have to call me, and yet they never look at the list. They always insist on calling me. So whatever. I'm best friends with the with the guard. Not really, but I should have said happy Halloween. Shame on me. I wasn't very friendly, but I'm focused. I'm focused on you, and I hope you're having fun. So where was I at before I was so rudely interrupted by the security? It is, yeah, they're locked into, yes, they bring down mortgage interest rates, right? Sellers are now willing to sell. Buyers can now allegedly afford to buy because the interest rates are lower. It's more favorable. Obviously, anything under 8 is more favorable, right? Well, for a short period of time, that will work. However, the people who can't afford their lives now certainly will not be able to afford it then. And what we will likely have the setup for is the biggest real estate or housing market crash that we've ever seen in history. And that's exactly what will happen. In the interim, I'll make a fortune because it will be easy money again. But irrespective of market conditions, the market is always good for someone. And there's no such thing as a bad real estate market or a bad housing market for a real estate professional. It's whom is it best for? So my job is to know and to pivot to whomever it's best for. So it may be buyers, it might be a buyer's market. It may be sellers, it may be a seller's market. It may be investors, it may be hedge funds, it may be institutions. It could be whoever it is, but my job is simply to serve and support them and provide the maximum value to whomever it is. But if you're a one-trick pony, like most of the people have been up until now who have benefited from the easy market conditions, well, if you're a one-trick pony, you are going to be out of the business. And that's just the way it goes. All right, so what's up, AD? What's up, Bradley J? What's up, Lucas? Brock Landers in the house. Go back to New Jersey. You got it. What exit should I stop at? Let's see. Did I say hello to everybody? Yes, I did. All right. We got 18 people watching, and I appreciate that. I hope you got to enjoy trick-or-treating, either for yourself, with your family, or with your neighbors. What's up, Volker? But that being said, because I was out trick-or-treating with my kids, I put out a gigantic, actually 2 gigantic buckets of candy. And of course, I don't want to be the guy giving out cheap candy. So I go to Costco, I get the big premium king size bars, and I load these 2 buckets up to the brim. I mean, it's completely filled, both of them. And I also knew that I would not be there to enforce any measure of accountability of just taking one. And I expected when I came back that I would be completely housed because last year, for whatever reason, our block didn't get a lot of traffic, which was unusual. But there, one group of teenagers of 4 people who were as nice as you could possibly want to be, because I met them as I was walking back to meet with my kids. But anyhow, they were as nice as you could possibly want to be. And then they robbed me blind. They took everything. So it's all good. I have no problem getting jacked, and I expect to. That's what happens when you put out a bunch of candy. So shame on the people who didn't steal all my candy, but nonetheless, there are still items that have been they haven't been taken yet. All right, so let's get into what is happening right now. I talked a little bit about some of the leading indicators, And you must be aware of what the leading indicators are, because before the real estate market corrects or crashes, there are going to be other markets that crash first. So pay attention to what's going on. Do your due diligence, be prudent, understand your numbers, understand your financial condition, and govern yourself accordingly. Now, that being said, speaking of governing themselves accordingly, we got JP Morgan's Jamie Dimon out there. And JP Morgan is the biggest bank in the country, and maybe in the world. I don't know. But a banker's job is not to terrify its consumer base or its customer base or the public. The last thing anybody in the financial services industry wants to do is spook. It's Halloween, dad joke, boom, boom. But the last thing they want to do is freak anybody out. The last thing they want to do is panic anyone. But yet, he's out there talking about the tremendous weakness that he sees in his own business, in the banking industry. And he's not alone. There are plenty of others who have said the same thing. Well, that's unusual. That's new. That is pointing, that's a leading indicator, right? But what did he do almost directly after that? Well, he went out there and registered to sell 1 million shares of JP Morgan stock. It's the first time he's ever sold his own stock. And as a stockbroker, when I was analyzing companies, one of the things that I wanted to be hyper aware of is, are insiders buying or selling their stock? And I'm not talking about exercising options. I'm talking about selling their common stock. And if there's a mass exodus of insiders selling their stock, that is no bueno. That is a leading indicator that there's probably something not good happening behind the scenes. Now, it is perfectly reasonable to expect that at different points that some insiders are going to have planned sales, that they're going to sell some stock. But I think the timing of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, selling 1 million shares of stock is a leading indicator that the banking system is going to be in trouble, that there is a crisis brewing. And that's just the reality of what I see. But let's see what the market reveals, because what I think and what my predictions are irrelevant. The market doesn't care what I think. The market is always right. It doesn't care about me. It doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about my financial position. It doesn't care about anything other than what the market does. All right, so let's see here. Bradley J, Sylvia, Kristen, school repayment is coming back. What do you think? Go back to market. All right. Before I get too distracted by answering those questions, let's get into what's happening in the housing market. But also, let's keep in mind there is the Treasury is doing some different things. They just announced a new series of bonds at a rate of 5.27% for the next 6 months. Series 1 bonds, and inflation protected and nearly risk-free. What does nearly risk-free means? It means it's not risk-free. We'll pay 5.27% through April 2024, the U.S. Department of Treasury announced Tuesday. Based on inflation data, it's the 4th highest rate since bonds were introduced in 1998. Interesting. One could argue that we are in a depressive environment. We are in a depression, an economic depression right now. The only reason that we're not is that they have played all these different games, turning the knobs to manipulate the economy and manipulate the system. However, investors need to consider the downsides along with their goals before purchasing. Yes, well, thank you for the news announcement, CNBC Pro. And now let's get into what the data is, because I assume that's why you tuned in. All right, so let's get after it right now. And let's look. Am I familiar with Melody Wright? I believe Melody Wright was a former Fed governor at some point, and she just recently wrote a book, which I have not read yet. I want to. But yeah, I think that's the same person. All right, so let's go to the numbers, because the numbers do not lie. And I'm going to start in Palm Beach County. I'm going to start with the markets that I serve and support. And to be totally transparent, if there's a market that you are interested in and I don't cover it or it's not in my wheelhouse, please reach out because I can absolutely and will 1000% connect you with someone who is boots on the ground, who does understand the market the right way, and serve and support you at the highest level, no matter where you're at. And if this door dasher can't figure out to just put the food down without me answering the door, I'm probably going to lose my mind. Because I'm not leaving you. All right. So Boca Raton. And normally I don't go this thorough, but I'm going to today because the market, I believe, needs to be analyzed and there needs to be an awareness of what it was like versus what it was like then versus what it's like now. So we're going to start with actually, here we go. Now, to be clear, the Realtor associations will publish October data and it will be available at some point, except problem is it will be very old. It will be lagging. It will be at the end of November that you get to see what I'm sharing right now. So I pay a premium to ensure I know and share with you what's happening in real time because reading yesterday's newspaper is an academic exercise with no economic value. You need real-time information. You need to know what's happening, and that's what we're going to go into right now. So current versus previous month to date. So from October 1st through the 30th, which encompasses everything but today, the for sale properties were up 12.5%. Sold properties were down 31%. Pending sales were down 27.4%. What does that tell you? It tells you there are a lot less transactions that are happening. Well, I hope that doesn't come as a news flash to anybody because at 8%, there's a hell of a lot less buyers, which does not mean there are no buyers. I recently took a listing less than a week ago, and last year there would have been 30 contracts. This year there were 3. We got it under contract in less than a week, and everybody's thrilled with the results. But all of those buyers were cash buyers. Finance buyers are basically non-existent. Doesn't mean they're not out there. It just means they are significantly less than there were before. And if there are less buyers, well, chances are prices are going to go down. But let's see what's happening in Boca Raton because we just looked at for sale versus sold. Let's look at the sold prices. So the average sold price in Boca Raton in October versus September was down 2%. But look at the numbers, right? Boca Raton is very pricey. So yes, there was a price drop, but we need to monitor, is there a trend forming? And thus far, there is no trend, but at $1.388 million, there's a lot less folks who can afford that type of home. So Boca is pricey. Most of my markets that are hyper local are very pricey. There are lots of affluent people who live here, but I believe there are lots of affluent people who live here that are living above their means. I believe there are lots of affluent people that are living here that are going to get squeezed out of their lifestyle. And it would not shock me if in the not too distant future, the pain of recession becomes sufficient enough for them to come to Jesus and realize they need to sell their home. It's their last chance. And if everyone feels that pain and panics at the same time, well, then the equity that you think you have goes bye-bye quick. Because if the market goes from a short supply of inventory to a massive supply of inventory, well, chances are you're screwed. And now you're playing the catch a falling knife game. So if you think you may be in financial peril and you've run your numbers and think that you may want to sell, you better do it immediately because I suspect it's just going to get real nasty real quick. But nonetheless, Boca Raton average sold price is down 2% in October. And you heard it here first. When they come out with it next month, you can laugh at whoever shared it with you because it's a month old. Nobody cares. All right, so that's Boca. I'm losing my voice. Happy Halloween. We got this I think we got this at Bedner Farms. And if you are in Boynton Beach, you definitely need to check out Bedner Farms, local family-owned business, family-owned farm. They put on a tremendous fall festival. We love going there. They've got the best you pick that you could possibly want, and that's where I got this cup from. But all right, so that was what was that? That was Boca Raton. Now let's look at what is going on in Boynton Beach. Boynton Beach, and to be clear, I am looking at single-family homes only. Right, that's the product type I'm looking at. And this is a macro picture. This is not drilled down into the hyperlocal markets that exist within each of these cities. This is a wide scope that we're covering. If you want to learn more about whatever hyperlocal market that you're interested in, please reach out because we will help you with whatever you need. But Boynton overall macro picture, October versus September, average sold price down 2.1%. From 624 to 611. Interesting. That's the same, close to the same decrease that we saw in Boca Raton. Now let's look at Delray. Booyakasha. Well, this goes to show how different the markets trade relative to each other, even though each of these cities is right next to each other. The average sold price in Delray Beach is up damn near 10%, almost double-digit gains. That goes to show that scarcity of resource will drive prices higher. And there are affluent folks that are still willing to buy homes, even at $1.273 million. Depending on which market you're shopping in, that's actually a low number. But that's just what it is here in South Florida, Southeast Palm Beach County. 1.273 from 1.159, up almost 10%. But I am curious what the transactions looked like. So there was a decrease of sold properties, almost 20%. There was a decrease of pended homes to the tune of almost 30%. So I expect that to be the dynamics of what the numbers are in every city. There are far less buyers. Everybody knows that. This does not come as a newsflash to anybody. And if you don't know that, well, now you do. If you don't know, now you know. Ninja. All right. So let's see here. What do I think of the market in Central Florida? Central Florida is a very different market, right? I was just up there. We go up there often. We are Disney Vacation Club members. We just had a great time. And I'm not going to go into a deep dive as to what I think about Disney, other than to say I don't agree with most of their woke ideology. But so somebody made a comment like, how dare I invest in Disney? Well, I don't look at it as investing in Disney. I look at it as investing in happiness for my children. And I'm prepared to have the uncomfortable conversations when I happen to be accosted by a bearded woman lifeguard who is not a woman, period, despite the fact that whatever. So I'm going to leave that one alone. You can do you can do your own numbers with that. But I don't want to have a conversation about what that is with my 8 and 10-year-old daughters ever. And yet that's what you can expect to see when you're at Disney, and you can expect to pay a premium for everything while you're there because they can do it. So the inflation is bad. And you have a crush on the bearded lady. Yeah, dude looked like a lady. And I was hot for her big time. I actually pretended I was drowning, and she came in and she rescued me. She gave me mouth to mouth. It was an amazing experience. I highly encourage you to try it, but it's all good. So where was I at with this? I don't exactly remember, but that's okay. So that's a snapshot of the markets that I service here in South Palm Beach County. Let's look at Broward for a moment and see what that yields. Now, I've lived in Palm Beach. I lived in Broward. I've lived in many different cities in my 40 plus years of living here. And each market is very different. Each city is very different. There are lots of pros and cons depending on where you're at in your life as to why you might want to live in any of these places. So there's no right or wrong. It's simply what's right for you. But I want to look at What do I want to look at? I want to look at Coral Springs. And Coral Springs was one of the places that I lived. We moved there after we had a long run in Fort Lauderdale. But at the time, Coral Springs was up and coming. It was the latest and greatest. It's very similar to where I live now, but even where I live now is starting to become overcrowded. And I suspect, in fact, I don't, not only do I suspect, I know for certain that many buyers are opting not to live here, but to move a little bit further north into the newer communities that they're building. And right now, new construction is the only game in town because people are trapped in their homes. So we see a major uptick of growth happening in cities that were a little bit less desirable in the recent past, but they're now up and coming. They are gorgeous. And with these builders, you can get incentives, you can get reduced interest rates. They are willing to pay down or do what they must to incentivize the market to get inventory off their balance sheets if they must. And I can assure you they must. So if you're shopping for new construction, chances are you're going to find a great deal in some of these other markets. But that's today. In the future, I suspect it's going to be a heck of a lot different. And I think the incentives are going to be a heck of a lot more. And depending on where you're at, because again, what happens in Florida, what happens in Miami, different than what happens in Palm Beach, different than what happens in Tallahassee, different than what happens in Texas, California, New York, New Jersey, or wherever. Each market is going to trade completely differently than the next. There will be its own intensity of supply and demand. But for now, Florida is still the number one migrated place to. And despite the fake news that I've seen out there by people talking about the mass exodus of people that are leaving, it's bullshit. Run the numbers, do your own due diligence, and you'll see that there is still a tremendous amount of folks from around the country and around the world that want to live in Florida. And despite the fact that I made a joking video talking about I'm leaving Florida, I can't take it anymore, 90% of the folks who watched that, which by the way, total joke. I did that after I was done on the Peloton and I was letting the audience know that I was leaving for a week. And previous to that, I had been posting almost every day. So it was me letting you know that I'm going away for a week. Nobody made it that far into the video. Instead, they just crucified me for being a dirtbag and a damn Yankee and a horrible human being. But if you're watching this, I suspect you know that none of that's true. But I think it's funny that I did a video talking about I'm leaving Florida, and it's my number one performing video. It's got over 200,000 views. So thank you for everybody who watched it, or thank you to everybody who watched it. You got tricked, and I got treated. Okay, so enough yapping out of me. We're looking at Coral Springs, and similar to the other markets, sold homes down 43%, pending sales down 7%, for sale homes up 16, almost 16%. Well, that's not a surprise. But what happened with the prices? What happened with the values? Because your home is only going to be worth what a buyer is willing to pay, not what you think it's worth, not what Zillow says, not what your uncle who knew something about real estate back 20 years ago, or maybe used to be a realtor. None of that shit matters. The only thing that matters is what the market is willing to pay. And with mortgage interest rates at 8%, there are a lot less buyers that are willing to pay. But depends where you're at. So in Coral Springs, we got a downtick of almost 6%, a drop from 719 down to 677. Well, let's see what next month yields. Let's see if we have a trend developing, because I suspect we do. Yet to be determined, I don't know. And certainly if on Wednesday they start manipulating the system and they start to ease monetary policy, if that happens, well, then I can promise you it's double-digit gains for everywhere in Florida, or at least in my hyperlocal markets, for a long time, up until the system fails, and it will. All right, so that's Coral Springs. Let's look at Fort Lottie-Dottie, because I used to live there too, and a lot of folks love living in Fort Lauderdale. I am not one of them, but it is one of, they call it the Venice of the United States, right? So you can have a boat in your backyard and have waterfront access and be able to live that nautical lifestyle in many places in Fort Lauderdale. So there are lots of affluent folks who are willing to pay a premium to not have their boat dry docked or pay for a dock slip or whatever it is. They just have their yacht behind their house. Those houses or those homes are pricey, as evidenced by the average active price in Fort Lauderdale in October was 3.144 million, up 6% from the previous month. But what a seller wants and what a buyer is willing to pay, two different things. And the average sold price is also on the uptick, up almost, well, we don't round up at 3.4, we round down. But I would say 3% uptick, really 3.4 to be exact, but a jump from 1.386 to 1.433 in terms of average sold price in Fort Lauderdale. Okay, that's great. Let's look at Parkland. And I bring up Parkland because actually I'm just naming all the places that I've lived in Broward County. And Parkland, another affluent market, a very nice place to live. Average sold price down 2.5% from 1.2 million to 1.173. And sellers might be getting the memo because the average active price is also down 3.5%. That's what happens when people get realistic. And when sellers start to face the music that the home isn't worth what they thought it was, this is not a lottery ticket. This is not the stock market. This is the housing market. And they're getting reality based, at least as of October. But average active price dropped 3.5% from 1.606 to 1.550, which seems to be closer in terms of what a seller wants and what a buyer is willing to pay than the other markets that we've covered so far. But keep in mind, this is a macro number, so there are going to be outliers which distort what these numbers are. And depending on where you're shopping and what product type you're looking for, there could be a massive delta between prices in whatever neighborhood you're shopping in. Okay, let's see here. Brevard and Indian River. No, I don't have access to that. Martin County, let's see here. I don't know what I have other than a nagging need to eat these delicious home wrecker burritos that I have not eaten yet. Okay. Let's see what I've got access to, because I suspect I've got access to some of the cities that you want to see. All right. So we are looking for Stuart, bam, in the house. All right. Let's see what Stuart looks like. Sweet mother of Jesus. In Stuart, we have double-digit appreciation in terms of average sold price. From 398 to 458, up 15.1%. That is a massive whopper. However, if you look at the distortion between the average active price and the average sold price, you can see there's a big jump between the 1,061,000 and the 458, which tells me there is a wide range of different properties that are sitting on the market unsold. And the market will correct. The market will come down at some point. At some point, these systems that have been insulated, that have inflated, that have been manipulated, that this doesn't go on forever, folks. And I think a lot of people believe that it will. Now, I'm not an economist. I'm not a market timer. I don't believe in that. There is no bad or wrong or good or bad time to buy or sell. It's whatever is right for you. But if you're looking to time the market, whether it's stocks, bonds, real estate, crypto, doesn't matter, you are never going to win. It is not speculators, but market timers fail 100% of the time. It's time in the market. So if you are able to afford your lifestyle and afford whatever your new property might be, well, then set it and forget it and don't worry about it. Just know that you are going into volatility season for, I don't know exactly how long this will last, but I suspect it's going to take a lot of time to unwind the damage that's already been done over the course of the last 15 years. And it only took 10% of the national market to be in distress for home prices nationally to drop by 30%. I suspect there's going to be a lot more than 10% of the market that feels the pain when the pain becomes real. And right now, it's theoretical. For some people, for right now, the affluent people or the fake rich or the people who feel the wealth effect, they're in denial of where they're at. But shit gets real very quickly when they can't, when the musical chairs game, when the, when the financial musical chairs game stops, when the music stops playing and they find that their ass does not have a seat, you're going to see the market correct viciously very quickly. There's well, from my experience, do prices drop in winter? Not in Florida because there is no winter, there is no season. Well, that's not true. There is a season. There is tourism season. There is tourist season, but it's always a good market in Florida. There is no distinction between winter and summer other than the name of the month. But we're lucky if we get 2 weeks of weather, which is what I guess most people would describe as being cold. I don't. I like when it gets cold, but it's very rare that it's in the 50s. I'm completely losing my voice now. All right. So, yeah, there is no, I have not noticed any difference in seasonal buying or selling ever, with the exception of families that have kids in school, right? They are going to be more sensitive to the school season and where they want to be. So you may see some hyper local market changes around areas where there are good school districts or even bad school districts, just schools in general. But outside of that, it's always a good market in Florida, and people are always shopping in Florida. So no, I don't really, I don't notice any price drops that are seasonally related here in Florida. That is different in other markets, of course, but it's very different here than it would be in Connecticut, for example, where during the winter, I suspect there's a lot less activity than there is during the summer or any other season. But that's where we're at as of October of 2023. This is your Florida housing market update. I will be back soon with more data in real time. I hope you appreciate these live streams. I enjoy serving you the information. If I can ever be of service to you, please reach out because we would love to help. And if you are in a market somewhere other than mine, please reach out too, because I will connect you with an all-star professional and serve and support you at the highest level with whatever you might need. So that's it. Enjoy your evening. Happy Halloween. God bless. Good luck. And until next time, peace.